Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of U.S. History with Miss Nevins. As you know, we are in the middle of Unit 7, the United States home front during an international crisis. And I know we're in the middle of it, we're a little exhausted, but we're going to get through it together. So let's go through our overarching question of the lesson, just as a quick reminder. Is the suspension of civil liberties or suppression of public opinion to maintain national security ever justified? I'm going to read it one more time. I know we've been reading it every day. This is really important, and it really, especially for today, because our lesson question for today is very similar. So I really want you guys to kind of internalize this question and kind of compare it to the question for today's lesson. Because they kind of really go hand in hand. So one more time, is the suspension of civil liberties or suppression of public opinion to maintain national security ever justified? So just keep that in the back of your mind. I'm hoping you guys have written this down in a notebook, typed it down somewhere, taken a screenshot of this, you have it down. You also have access to this Google slide, so you guys can come back to this for reference whenever you need. So just a quick look at our agenda. As you can see, we're on day 7. We're going to be talking about Japanese-American internment experience as a follow-up to yesterday's lesson on Pearl Harbor and the impact it had on Japanese Americans. Today's lesson definitely goes hand in hand with yesterday's lesson, and sort of goes hand in hand with day 5's lesson as well. This is sort of the culmination of both of the previous lessons. So let's look at today's objectives. So primarily we're going to be focusing on the effects of Executive Order 9066. We're going to get further into that later on in the lesson. But we're going to see about how that impacted Japanese Americans and those of Japanese descent living in America. We're also going to be exploring life at Manzanar. And Manzanar is just one of the 10 internment camps that were built and housed many of the Japanese Americans and people of Japanese descent during World War II. But again, like I said earlier about our overarching unit question, this is our central historical question of the day. Was the internment of Japanese Americans justified, or does it demonstrate a failure of democracy? This is the question that we're going to focus on for today. And we're going to come back to it. It's going to be part of our lesson, of our activity today. So just keep this in mind. Was the internment of Japanese Americans justified, or does it demonstrate a failure of democracy? But before we do that, we're going to take a look at a few photos taken by photographer Dorothea Lange. And I don't know if you could see this because of the recording, but there's a picture right here. You're actually going to see it later in our activities, so if you don't see it right now, but it's a picture actually of Manzanar. Taken by Dorothea Lange, but I'm going to actually move on so you can see the photos for this quick activity we're going to do. So here are 2 photos taken by Dorothea Lange. I'm going to do that. So one is this one on the left, called Learning to Walk, and the other is called Going to School. And one thing I really want to point out to everyone is that these are relatively normal daily activities. Right now, you're watching this, you're going to school, just like these kids are. They are going to school. And here, this child is learning to walk. We have all learned to walk. We all have done this activity. So we are all going to click here and go to the Jamboard, and we're going to take some time, about 5 minutes, to brainstorm and post sticky notes and answer this question. What other daily or normal everyday actions do you think people interned at Manzanar did?